Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. On today's show, we have a guest who has got an incredible story to share with you. Not only is his life story incredible, but the things that he has done to overcome and accomplish some things is just absolutely amazing. He is a health and wellness coach, and he has taught people how to lose weight, regain energy, and diet in a way that they will never really have to diet again. Before coaching, though, he battled with ADHD, and he took medication and things like that. But eventually he found that through diet, he was able to change some things where it allowed him to be medication free for the last 20 years. Speaking of free, not only that, but he witnessed his mom go through some similar challenges, and she was trying to clear breast cancer. So the last 19 years, free as well. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Donne DeSanti to the show. Welcome, Donnie.
How you doing? Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
I am doing really well. Now, you have some holistic methods and a whole lot of information about diet and how that plays a role in illness in our body. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So it seems to be now dieting is it's a big thing right now. As a country right now, we're at the heaviest we've ever been, and I think it's something around 95% of diets, people on diets fail with dieting. So, but yet we still have more diets coming out and more people jumping on it and struggling with trying to lose weight or making healthy changes. And it's this vicious cycle, and people are frustrated, and it's such an unhealthy way to kind of go about health and losing weight that, I think the way I work with people, it becomes a more refreshing way to look at health and and how our bodies are meant to live and ways our bodies are meant to thrive. And that's something that I think is missing right now from our culture is we don't know really how to thrive in our health.
I would have to agree with that. There are so many things that we have that are just filling our lifestyle into making unhealthy choices because we're either having to get somewhere too quickly, or we don't have enough time in our day just with general things that we're being faced with. We're not spending enough time in the kitchen to prepare the meals that we should that are healthy. And so there's kind of this cycle where everything is a go, go, go. And we forget that for us to be able to do so, we really need to fuel ourselves in a manner that really fosters healthiness within our body, our mind, our spirit, and our soul. And so what I find very interesting is that you yourself have experienced something that has allowed you to be medication free, and that's ADHD. And the common thing that I know that you were on, as well as many Americans out there who have suffered with this particular condition, and that is Ritalin. And so basically, instead of changing our lifestyle, we end up just providing people with lots of medication for various illnesses, and those treat a lot of the symptoms but don't overcome the cause. And so with you now being medication free for 20 years, I'm wondering, how did you do that?
Right. So, I was on medication since I think fourth grade. I was diagnosed, and most of my teen years I was on medication. And I was actually influenced by a woman actually came to my school to give a talk on actually how she reversed her breast cancer through, kind of natural methods. And she just started to really dive into health and the ways food kind of played a role in that. And it really kind of influenced me. And I kind of looked at it like, wow, if she's kind of making these changes with cancer, I could probably do the same with my condition. And that really kind of started the spark in me to kind of look at like, what if I just made myself as healthy as possible? What if I changed what was on my plate? What if I started to eat really healthy foods? Like, how can that influence, my symptoms, my condition. And that kind of just led me down a rabbit hole and just opened up a whole new world of what it meant to be healthy. And little by little, I started to change what was on my plate. And I noticed as I changed what I was eating, it would change how I would feel. And, in particular, one thing in particular was sugar. Okay. That was something that was like the fuel for the fire for me.
Okay.
Sugar, if I had sugar or any kind of artificial colors or sweeteners, that would set me off and I'd have a really tough time concentrating. So that was like the first place I started. I focused on, okay, let me remove all this processed sugar. And I noticed that I could focus, I could stay calm when I did remove that. And when I added in, again, it was kind of like it would light me up. So, that was definitely the starting point. Like, okay, let me remove all this kind of sugar and let me see what happens when I add good foods back in.
That's really interesting because sugar is, to our palate, such a wonderful food, but to our body, it is very detrimental. And there's a lot of talk now about the play on sugar and our gut. And so, everything is being processed through that and then moving out through the rest of our system. So this is really interesting to hear how that played. Now, in your role with this, and you're on medication at the time and you're experimenting with removing the foods and replacing them with, unhealthy foods and replacing them with healthy foods. So how did you know what was medication based and what wasn't? And how long did it take before you were able to kind of move away from that and go, I don't even need the medication anymore?
Well, it being, I was still kind of a teenager when I was experimenting with that. So obviously, talk to my doctor, my parents with their support. And, a big part of it, a big part of me being on the medication was obviously, performance in school, getting good grades, things like that. So, that was an indicator. It's like, okay, let's monitor your grades. Are you still getting good grades? Are we getting any reports from your behavior? Right. So that was an indicator. Obviously, the ways I felt, did I feel okay off the medication? Did I feel like I can, focus? Could I sleep? Things like that. And obviously my parents could monitor behavior too. So if there's any kind of, if things weren't working well, like, okay, this isn't working, we can get back on the medication. But, I say it happened all fairly pretty quickly. I started to just wean off of it relatively quickly. And it was something I really wanted to do. I didn't like the way the medication felt. I didn't like being on it. I felt embarrassed about it. So, I wanted to go all in with it. So it wasn't something like I just tried, so it all happened pretty relatively quickly. And plus I just started to really get into health and learning more about it. So, that kind of struck up a passion as well.
So if someone were starting to go into a mode where they want to get healthy, sugar is the number one thing to cut.
Yeah. I just think not even, across the board, if if someone's looking to improve on their health, whatever it may be, I always recommend, like, look how much sugar you're consuming. And the thing with sugar, Rebecca, is that it's kind of like it's snuck in everything nowadays. It's estimated that about 75% of the products on our shelves in our supermarkets have some kind of hidden sugar in it. So people don't even realize they might be having sugar. It's not just about, putting a couple spoonfuls of sugar in our coffee. Sugar's taken on so many different names, so many different derivatives that people don't realize it. Okay. And that's something I think someone, become educated on that and see, start to read what's in your food. And I think they'd be surprised. Everything from like condiments to your bread to salad dressings to, obviously cereals and snacks, drinks. You'd be surprised how much sugar is in everyday things. And that starts to add up. And that has a direct effect, like you said, kind of like this toxic effect on our body.
It does, because it messes with our insulin levels. And so that 100%. Creates a whole issue. And then for those who are going through insulin resistance, or they have pre-diabetes or diabetes, it's a huge problem. But when you said 75%, I'm just kind of amazed at this number, because that's huge. I know that two staples that many households consume and don't realize that has high amounts of sugar, and that's milk and ketchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Condiments is a crazy one, right?
Yes, absolutely. You wouldn't think that at all. You're looking at a bottle of ketchup and you're thinking, what, tomatoes, right? Certainly not thinking, okay, I'm having a spoonful of sugar.
Yeah.
And this is one we don't want the medicine to go down with.
Yeah, salad dressings always surprise me too, because here's someone trying to make this healthy choice, right? Some greens and veggies, and then they're putting like this, I don't know, organic fat-free dressing on it, and it's got like 3 different versions of sugars in it, and it's like,
That's interesting. So some of the names that sugars are being labeled under is like dextrose. Is that what you're talking about? Sucrose?
Yeah. So anything ending in OSE is going to be a form of sugar. Sucrose, dextrose, maltose, fructose. That's going to be kind of a sugar derivative, right? So that's a big one to look out for.
I think that's a really good thing to tell the audience, because with all of the ingredients that are listed on so many things, sometimes you can't even pronounce it when I'm already stumbling over that one. So yeah. So looking for something that ends in OSE is pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, I had found something very interesting many years ago, and that was if I had stayed under 5 grams of sugar by looking on the label, and anything over 5 grams of fiber, I did very, very well with that. And so what's interesting is that you bring up this sugar issue because there is such a correlation. However, that was more geared towards weight loss for me, not towards a specific ailment. And so you're talking not only about ADHD, but you had seen your mom experience having to go through breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us a little bit about that and how diet played a role in this, as well as her being now medication free for the last 19 years?
Right. Yeah. So that was a big shocker to our family, and it was a couple of years after I had been medication free for a good couple of years, and my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and right away doctors wanted to kind of put her on radiation and chemo, and my mom did go through a mastectomy. But she didn't want to go that chemo radiation route. She kind of felt in her heart that she wanted to go more, kind of quote unquote alternative route. And that was tough. That was tough for her because she didn't have the support of the doctors. The doctor said if she didn't do chemo radiation, she'll be dead in 6 months. And but she just felt that was the route for her. And it was shockingly, I told her to reach out to the woman who kind of influenced me. She was someone local in our neighborhood. And she did, and that kind of led her down her own path of, detoxification. It was, she went through some intense detoxification, went to kind of a retreat for that, really dove into, again, kind of saturating her body with tons of nutrients and detoxification and relearning really, again, for her, like, how to eat healthy, how to shop. I mean, it was pretty intense for her. But again, the results kind of spoke for themselves. The doctors were actually pretty shocked. They did case studies on her, and surprisingly here, and gratefully, I should say, 19, 20 years later, she is still cancer free. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'm going to guess that the difficulty in that wasn't just for her, but for family members too, because when you're talking about changing your own diet, you're cooking different and you're buying different foods, and the people that are in your household also are now going to begin to change the way that they eat and do things as well. So was your entire family affected by this?
I mean, we all supported her, and I would say, I was already kind of on board, and I just loved what she was doing, and the rest of the family was too. I wouldn't say it was too difficult for her. If anything, we adopted some of the things that she was doing. We're like, oh wow, that's great. We can use it too, And so, yeah, I could see it being difficult, maybe for some families, and I would say it kind of worked out for us. And we weren't like, Mom, you do this and we do this. I think we all kind of supported her together.
That's fantastic. Now let me ask you, over the course of all this time, your mom, you've seen people make changes. You have now branched out and offered an opportunity for those who are seeking to get healthy and overcome different types of ailments, coaching and support. And you've got a lot going on with that area. Can you share with us about what you're doing?
Yeah, so all these kind of, I guess, our experiences in life kind of lead us down certain roads, and through my experiences and just keep learning and definitely seeing what my mom went through myself as well, it just started to open up more and more, kind of doors on what it meant to be healthy, and just kind of learning more and more. And people just started to ask me questions about health and, hey, what about this and this? And that kind of led me down this path to coaching, and obviously going back to school for it and kind of making it into a practice, and helping others, because I feel like it's something, people don't have a lot of access to that. Of course, there's tons of information out there, but it can be so overwhelming, and people can really use kind of that guide on the side to be like, listen, I want to feel good. I want energy. I want to lose weight. I want to can I get rid of these symptoms? Right? Can I sleep at night? And it's kind of relieving to have someone on the side to kind of direct them and be like, yeah, do this, or like, here's how you change your diet. Here's what you could add in there. And that's something we don't really have access to. Yes, we have our doctors, but we go to our doctors when we're sick, right?
That's right.
They're not really meant there to teach us how to be healthy. And that's not really something we learn along the way. Some of us stumble into it, or we learn on our own, but for the most part, we don't really know how to be healthy anymore, because we're so overwhelmed with the food that's out there, and we hear things. And so I try to be that guide on the side and simplify things for people so that they can create a lifestyle for themselves.
That's very interesting. And what you're doing, let me ask you, what is the number one challenge people come to you with when it comes to healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, good question. I think you touched on it before a little bit. I would say the number one thing for people is time, that people struggle with is that, some people say, hey, listen, I know eating vegetables and fruit is healthy, but I don't have time to do it. I think we're more and more, busier than ever. We're trying to do everything. And so, I kind of always factor that in and try to make things digestible for people and applicable in their life and busy lifestyles. And I think people realize, like, what, I do have time for this. I feel good. I have more energy. And when they have more energy, they find out they have more time. It's just, time is a mental thing, right? We all have 24 hours a day, but how we're using that time, how we feel about the time, you'd be surprised when people start to increase their energy. They're like, well, I want to do that. I want to go exercise. I want to go for a walk. I want to make a healthy meal, and then time isn't really an issue anymore. So in the beginning, I think that's always the obstacle, the mental obstacle, I should say, is time.
Mm-hmm. So what is a starting point, aside from the issue surrounding sugar and eliminating that? What would be a really good starting point for someone who wants to be able to get to the place where they have that energy and they can really start focusing on creating healthy meals and enjoying the foods that they're eating instead of, and I know that your palate changes after you've changed your diet. So when they're getting to that point when they're enjoying the foods that they eat and they're feeling content, they're not overstuffed, they're not starving, but yet they're experiencing the benefits by having, like you said, a good night's sleep and more energy and the ability to accomplish a lot more tasks throughout the day.
Right. Yeah. So I think a good starting point is we need to move back to eating more real food. Right. And I think that's the one thing that has changed considerably in the last 100 years is that our food, well, first off, our food aisles have increased dramatically. Right. We have more food-like products now, and we have drifted away a lot more from real foods. And when I speak of real foods, it's more foods that are closer to the earth, right? We're talking about plants and fruits and nuts and seeds and animals and things like that. So that's real food. That's food from the earth. And we're an animal. If we look at it, we're an animal. Okay. But right now we're eating these foods that our bodies just do not recognize. They do not know what to use them for. They're creating weight gain. They're bringing our energy down. It's like putting diesel fuel in an unleaded car, right? That's basically what we're doing right now. So, I encourage people to move back to that. Look at the food you're eating. Is this real food? Did this grow on something, or was this, at one time outside? And, for a lot of people, it's a very small part of their day to day. And if anything, I would encourage your listeners we want to increase that as much as you can and find ways to increase it.
This is quite interesting. Now, your business is quite impressive. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about what you have going? You have a Facebook group also, which is pretty large as well. Can you share with the audience how they will benefit by not only being able to talk to you one-on-one with the coaching that you do, but become involved with the group and what they are going to gain from that?
Yeah, so the group is fantastic. We have a great community in the Facebook group, and it's really about, I always say, being the healthiest version of yourself, right? And it revolves a lot around eating real foods again, giving our bodies what it needs to thrive. We talk about moving each day. We talk about things that bring about a healthier awareness about our in our lifestyle. For instance, this week we had a challenge of just slowing down when we eat, chewing our food more, like how much benefit that could have on like your digestion and how you feel after you eat and your energy, right? We talk about improving on sleep and reducing stress, because all these things, they all play a role in our health. It's not just about, oh, let me just eat chicken and broccoli. It's more than that. Health is more encompassing than that, and that's definitely the approach I take with my clients in the group. Is like, we need to look at health as a very holistic kind of approach. We need to look at everything in our life, because that all plays a role in our health. What about not just what's on our plate, but like, what about other things that are feeding you in your life? Things that are bringing you joy, your relationships, your career, because those are feeding you on a certain level as well. And it's important to look at that, right? So, this is the kind of approach, I take with the group, and definitely with my clients is, when I'm working with people, we look at everything in their life. We obviously start with what's on the plate, because when you start changing what's on the plate, it starts to have a ripple effect in your life. You start to have more energy. You feel good. You start to sleep better. You're less stressed, right? And that starts to like, hey, I'm feeling good. I want that, like, everything in my life, right? And I always joke that sometimes I'm working with people, and by the end, they're like looking for new jobs, right? So,
No, this is exciting, because if you think about it, all of those things cloud our thinking, because
yes,
we have low energy. And one of the things that you shared was the chicken and broccoli, and that's all I can have. There is a huge amount of frustration in not knowing what you can have that's good, in the sense of thinking, well, I'm limiting myself on all those really wonderful tasting foods, and I really don't have anything to eat. Yes, I can go to
yes,
the store and it's all bland food. So
yes,
if people get frustrated with that, I don't,
yeah.
they took out home ec from the classroom. So there's a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
people who are not familiar with cooking. Cooking is
yeah,
going down and buying something processed and prepackaged, or running
yeah.
the drive-through. Not to say that there isn't a lot of great tasting foods out there, but nutritionally speaking, the impact is very, very different than eating the foods that are grown straight from the earth and coming up, which even nowadays we have to be careful with that, because of the contaminants and chemicals that are being put in the soil. So I know that there's a lot of different challenges out there. But if you were going to talk about going to the grocery store, then you would say that, from what I understand, what they have said about shop the outskirts of the aisle, or out of the store, and don't head down the processed aisles, is more apropos than what we can even fathom, because of the effects that it's going to have.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of big points there. We have this stigma around health, that it is boring and bland. There's no options. So yeah, you touched on some great points there. It's that there is this stigma around eating healthy as being bland and boring and kind of restricting. And I think that's something I definitely bring, when I'm working with people, is like to open their eyes up to this whole new world of food that is not only nutritious, but delicious, and so many options that it would take you a lifetime to explore, right? Like, I do this for a living, and I'm always trying new foods and finding new things. And you know, and I always love when clients tell me, like, my God, I go in the supermarket and like the produce section is so much bigger and my eyes are so much open to like new things that it wasn't in the past. And that's because, like you touched on, like home ec, we've been removed from the kitchen. We're not taught how to cook like a decent meal, like in 20 minutes, or prepare something. And that is, I'll always say, our health will always be taken back in our own kitchen. It's something that's been removed. And I definitely bring people back into their kitchen. So that all plays a role in kind of in health, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you're blogging as well.
Yes. Yes. So I'm always reaching out trying to always provide more value, to kind of the community and the people. So, anything that can help.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about your one-on-one coaching.
So yes, I usually work with people in a 3-month period. Okay. I find that in that period, in 12 weeks, it's a good time. It's a good amount of time to build habits. Okay. Because that's really what we're doing, is we're building new habits. We all have this series of habits that are, for a lot of us, at least the people coming to see me, they're just not working for them anymore. So we try to start to change that. Okay. And we start with baby steps. I'm all about adding things in, to their day-to-day, to their lifestyle. So each week, we meet, virtual over the phone, and we start to add things into the lifestyle, relearning, how to eat, what's healthy. And we start to build up this strong foundation. I encourage them to get back in their kitchen. We learn how to, shop at the grocery store, what to look for when we're eating out. We get into things like, how to build up our immune system so we're staying healthy. Things to kind of avoid that are suppressing our immune system. How to sleep better, how to move more, not just go to the gym, but just move more in their life. And also things like supplementation and detoxification. So it's very involved, but we do this in a very kind of, systematic way by adding in instead of taking away. I'm more about filling in their lives than taking away in their lives. And by the end, people have like this strong foundation where they're kind of like, I feel good. I have this nice momentum and system going, and hopefully that continues throughout the years,
This is fantastic. And I know it takes a little while to build a habit, but doing it systematically like that, an approach that sounds easy. Most people think, okay, when you think of diet, that means taking away.
Yeah.
And you're not looking at it as diet. It's changing your lifestyle and adding things that are going to benefit you. And by doing so, it's going to not only benefit what your body is having right now, but because of that ripple effect, you're going to be much more productive if you're staying at home with your home life, if you're out working with your work life, if you're doing both, then with both. But the ripple effect will be huge because you're going to be more productive.
100%. Yeah, we just find like if you start adding in to your life, it starts to crowd away a lot of that bad stuff, right? That unhealthy stuff, because then it becomes, and I love when my clients tell me like, yeah, I was around people eating like, I don't know, pizza or desserts, and I was like, and I knew I could have it, but I just didn't feel like having it. That's a whole different ball game, whole different mental game than, oh, I'm not allowed to have that. Because then we get into a restriction game. And you can only work that mind over matter muscle for so long.
That's very true. When you feel like you're being deprived of something, it almost makes you want it more, or to
100%.
do more in the realm of being unhealthy. And it just feeds off of this really, unfortunately, vicious, unhealthy cycle. And it's hard to get out of. But when someone starts going through your program, or I should say lifestyle change, about how soon are they going to start seeing the benefits?
Yeah, that's good. Relatively quick. You'd be surprised. Within like a week or two, people are like, yeah, I feel more energized. I always say one of the first compliments my clients always get is how their skin looks. They're always,
okay.
I tell them this all the time. Like, don't be surprised if people start coming up to you and saying like, wow, your skin looks really like clear. Like you're very vibrant, like you're doing something. And because skin's an inside out job. You start changing what you're putting in your body, it's going to be coming out your pores, so they start getting that compliment. They start noticing, they're tolerating stress a lot better. Again, they're feeling energized. Maybe even a pound or two starts to fall off pretty rapidly. They're sleeping better. All these things, they can start to happen relatively quick. I mean, we're working together for 12 weeks, which is really not that long. And I'm surprised the amazing changes that people can make in that time in relatively short amount of time.
Well, I think what really is key to your system is the support, because I've worked with people in overcoming different types of victimization. And what I have found is people know resources are available, but they may not know how to use them, or they may feel apprehensive about using them at first. But if someone is there to guide them along the way, who has knowledge in this and is going to give them positive feedback and just help them with the challenges that they face, knowing that it's between you and them. They don't have to share this with the world. But
Right.
in your instance, you want them to be able, they're going to want to share it with the world. They're gonna be like, look at the changes I've made. I mean, I used to be in this particular position, and look what's happening to me now. And people who have gone back to the school of thought with, utilizing plants and fruits and vegetables and all of those things that are different are having much more success when they're faced with the medical field and pharmaceutical company. And you're finding this more and more and more and more.
Right.
But you're reading about it, but there hasn't really been anybody that's saying, I'm going to offer you one-on-one support where I'll coach you every day. And I'm sure that there are people out there who do some things, but gosh, I mean, what you do is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's very gratifying, and it's my pleasure, really. I mean, I love working with the people that I do, and helping people, and more importantly, seeing them get results. And the best thing is when I see them pass it along to like their loved ones or their families into it, or their kids. That's when it's really starting to stick for them, and they can share with their family. So
when you said results, I'm thinking, what is your biggest extreme makeover? What has been the biggest challenge that you as a coach has had to assist with someone in being able to move forward and seeing that success as you've gone through it with them?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely challenges in it. It's not always, puppies and rainbows. Some people, they might not be open to change, or they're not open to doing the work or what it takes. And unfortunately, you have those clients, it just doesn't work out, right? And as a coach, you grow from that, you learn from that. Can we take a different approach with that? Is there something else we could have learned? And that's part of growing. Me personally, I mean, I learn just as much from my clients, hopefully, as they do from me. And so there's some challenges there, and of course, people have some symptoms or challenges that maybe just changing their diet's not enough. But hopefully, you gave them some kind of pathway that leads them somewhere else that does help them, right? So definitely, I would say that the testimonials are a lot higher than those, but you do occasionally have those challenges. But that's important to have, because that's how you grow. I feel like I learn from them and I grow from them, so I could help the next person, right? Or I can help the next 10 people, and so those growing pains are important, in any, I'm sure in any aspect of life, right?
Most definitely. And what is really incredible about this, you mentioned that, stress reduction is going to happen when you are consuming things that make you healthy. That just blows me away, because we're going to have the same amount of stresses. Say if we have a certain job, there's going to be certain stressors that are always present in our daily life, but the ability to cope with them is going to be very, very different. And that was very impressive to me when you shared that, because most of the time when we think about healthy eating, we're only talking about weight loss or, getting a little skinnier, toned, something along those lines. We're not really thinking about the internal mechanisms that are being affected by this. And you have, I mean, an incredible testimony with the ADHD and being medication free. And this is a really good testimonial for those who are in that position and saying, okay,
Right.
what can I do? I'm so frustrated with this, but it's not just that particular condition.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, we are what we eat. And, for eating things with like high amounts of sugar, I mean, they're going to cause, like you said, these big spikes in our insulin levels and blood sugar levels are going to affect our gut system, which is going to send certain signals to our brain. Science is proving it. There's a gut-brain relationship, and what we're eating is definitely affecting how we think. I mean, I'm a perfect example of that. That's exactly what was happening for me with ADHD is, the messages weren't firing right to the brain. And you get this certain result. So, if you're on like this constant, sugar diet, poor food, I mean, that's directly going to affect how you feel, how you handle situations and stress, right? I just the other day, I was talking with a client. He's a, big time lawyer, right? Very stressful job, very demanding. And he was just telling me the other day how his wife even noticed how he's not as stressed as much anymore. Like how like his temper is definitely like calmed down, how she notices how he's dealing with stress a lot better. And he's been having amazing results. He's lost now almost like 46 pounds, gone down like a couple waist size. I mean, his challenge now is he's got to get a new wardrobe, and this is, been in a relatively short amount of time, but, bringing it up, the stress is something that, is a big thing.
Mm-hmm. I just think that this is absolutely fascinating with what you have and what you have to offer in everything that you're doing. So if you could share with the audience how they can get in contact with you to work with you one-on-one and get involved in the online community.
Definitely. I think the best way to reach me is to join the online community. I'm in there a lot. That's over at lifeandbalancetribe.com. You can just join right there at that link. Come on in. I'll definitely greet you. I greet everyone that comes in there. We have a great community. Like I said, I'm in there daily, posting, tips and ways, things that you could put into action like right away.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely. We like to keep it, applicable to life, and it's just a great community, a lot of support in there. You can post any questions you have, so that would be the best way to kind of get in contact with me, and we can definitely set up a time to talk more if people want to take their health to the next level. So that's just lifeandbalancetribe.com.
Thank you so much for all the information that you shared today. I am excited to be a part of your group and be making the changes and be sharing that with the audience as I move forward with the things that you're offering as well. So I'm just delighted what you have. It's a common sense approach, but the support is there and you have the resources available to provide to people who have questions, and they don't have to be right there in your area, coming to your place of business or something like that. You've got virtual, telephone, and things like that to offer the support. So thank you, Donnie, for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
And for those of you who want more information, you're more than welcome to get in contact with me, and I can put you in touch with Donnie. We want to thank you for watching this episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. Have a great day.